Hey now, I'm very excited to see you here this morning. I'm Rob Booker. Welcome to our daily webinar. Remember, all the recordings are always available on the YouTube at youtube.com/Rob Booker. Leave a subscription on that. That'd be great. You subscribe to the channel, that would be fantastic. Or if you watch this video on Facebook, please like the page. That will help me get the new recordings out to you much sooner. I'm very excited to be here with you today. Wes is on his way in here, and really excited to talk today about the settings that I think work the best on this T6 robot. As you know, we've been trading this trend trading robot on and off inside of this daily webinar, and that makes me super excited. And had a trade yesterday on the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen, that was pretty spectacular, and most of you were around to watch that. And here it is right here again. At the end of that trade, the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen jumped up again pretty significantly, and that trade is over. I want to walk through a very brief overview of what you need before you turn on that robot, and then we'll jump into the server and we'll take a look at what goes on the server. The first thing that you need before you trade this this robot, is you need a trend currency pair. You need some kind of currency pair that's going to move, that's going to be volatile, that is not going to just stay in one place. You don't want to trade this on a currency pair without some kind of a significant trending ability. And those currency pairs include, but are not limited to, anything that includes the Japanese yen, for example. And then after that, things like the Euro New Zealand, that's a really fast-moving, volatile currency pair. The British pound New Zealand dollar, that's another one. The Euro Australian, that's another one. The British pound Australian, that's another one. I would absolutely encourage any of these that you're seeing on my screen right now. Those are all really good choices. But you could also trade some of the exotics. You could trade the Euro Turkish lira, for example. You could trade the US dollar Mexican peso. Now, those are going to be a little bit different because they have such wide spreads and they move so far, and the pip value is different, that you don't want to start yourself off by trading an exotic currency pair. That's not the way you want to begin doing this. You want to start with something like the Euro yen, the pound yen, the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen, or the Euro New Zealand, or the Euro Australian, British pound Australian dollar. Those are the ones that I would focus on. And I get a lot of questions about this on Facebook and on YouTube and on WhatsApp. I get a lot of questions about this particular issue. What's the best currency pair to trade? And the fact of the matter is, you're going to have to take it from here. And this will be the definitive answer to that question, which is, these are the ones I like. I may like other ones in the future. You got to figure the rest of this out for yourself. That's up to you now. I'll start you off, and then you can find your own best currency pair. What if your favorite currency pair is not on the list? What if you come up with an idea and it's different from what I just said? Well, my answer would be, congratulations. That's why you do this. If you decide that the Euro US dollar is your favorite to use with this robot, well, then the Euro US dollar is your favorite to use with this robot. And that's fantastic and spectacular. And we salute you. There's a misunderstanding sometimes that if I teach you about the robot, then I know exactly what you should be doing with the robot, and you aren't allowed to think for yourself. But you are allowed to think for yourself. You're absolutely encouraged to think for yourself and pick your own favorite currency pair that you will use with this robot. Now, Wes, I'm going to pull up my screen, and I'm going to share my MetaTrader server installation, but I did want to say good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Oh man, I am so fantastic. I had a really good night's sleep, so
That's
super
great.
ready.
Okay, the version of the robot that I'm using and I will continue to use is called the T6 robot with reversal arrows. In a moment, I will show you where to find that in your robots course. I had a lot of questions about that recently, so I put it in a very obvious spot. What I'm going to do now is walk through the settings here one by one and help you understand what I think are the optimal settings for me as of this time and then you can adjust those for yourself in the future. There's a warning that a robot trading carries risk. Never trade this live before you've traded it on a demo account significantly. Use a different magic number than other robots are using. Candles back refers to 30, and it refers to Knoxville divergence. On this robot, actually, this setting is irrelevant, doesn't matter, and you can ignore it. Slippage refers to the max amount of slippage that you would accept before it will open a trade. If the market is moving quickly, this will prevent you from getting into a trade that could, in fact, turn out to be very unprofitable because your trade got slipped or didn't get taken at the right price. Lot size. I think for every $1,000 in an account, you might want to trade a micro lot. Buy or sell refers to whether you want the robot to buy or to sell. You don't have to worry about the settings in the Common tab. You can ignore this. If you would like to also change the settings in the Common tab, be my guest. It's not necessary. Don't do stuff that is unnecessary. Start time refers to the time that you want to start having the robot take trades. This is an important setting when doing backtesting, and it's less important when running it live. When running it live, you should look at your server time on MT4 up here in the upper left-hand corner, and then simply make the start time that specific time. Just if it says 9:07, just go into the robot settings and go 09:08, and that'll get your robot started right away. That means your robot can start trading immediately without any delay. If you put it for an hour in the future, it won't start trading until that hour comes. Now, the reason that this setting exists, once again, is so that you can precisely backtest. You can go back in time on a chart and say, this is where I believe the trend started. I want to backtest how the robot would do starting from there. And that way you can pick any, well, we're going to get to this in a minute, you can pick any method you want for identifying the existence of a trend. And you can backtest any set of circumstances that you want. But in live trading, you need to turn this on, or you need to put the time as the time that it is on MetaTrader when it starts. 1 minute in the future would be great. Now, the other one I get a lot of questions about is the cumulative profit in pips. And Wes, we've basically found that you want to have a profit target that's really big and a stop loss that is smaller.
Yes. Yeah.
And, any reason you want to, why did we decide to do that?
Well, because it might stop out like a couple of times, or might stop out once before it actually takes profit. But it'll place several trades usually before it'll take profit, and also we're looking at big moves because we're looking at trend stuff. So the big profit target on a trend trade is a good idea, and a small stop loss, because you want to get out of it relatively quickly if it's going against you.
Yeah.
Stay in there as long as possible if it's going for you. So
okay. That's exactly right. We're trend trading here, so we want to have a big profit target and a small stop. What's the best combination? And I think every currency pair is going to be different, but and every time let's say you use the daily chart to identify a trend, what you want to do is you want to do your own homework on how long those trends usually last. That's up to you. When I do a trade, I'm usually using the 60-minute chart, and I found that a profit target between 200 and 400 works nice, and a stop loss between -75 and -125 works nicely on all of the currency pairs that I'm looking at. So I'll repeat that again. I like a profit target between 200 and 400 and a stop loss between 75 and 125. And I would recommend that if you're doing exactly what I'm doing and you've been watching all these presentations, that you would probably choose something similar to that. The max number of stop outs is 2. That means the robot will give it 2 tries to have a winner. It might stop out twice, but then it stops. It's not going to trade anymore, and it prevents you from taking stop after stop after stop, trying to force the robot into profiting from a trend, and then it stops and takes a breather. It does exactly what a human should do. if you have some stops, you need to stop. I mean, it's the word stop for a reason. Break even at pips refers to the number of pips that you want it to get before it moves to break even. Set this number to an extraordinarily high number if you don't want to use a break even stop. I don't like to use a break even stop. I may do some testing in the future. In fact, we may do some testing today and see if we like using a break even. And the same principle is true for break even trades. If it breaks even twice, we just want to stop. We know that we failed and the trend doesn't exist, or the trend did exist and we missed the profit. Trade pause candles refers to the number of bars that have to pass before we can take another trade. This robot is designed, as you already know, to take multiple trades and one after the other. Now I want to make sure that this is not trading right now because excuse me, I don't see a trend that I want to trade on the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. As a quick review, I want to show you what this robot uses to take a trade. This robot will take a trade when a reversal arrow appears on the screen. We can have a webinar at a later date to describe what this is, but it is an indicator based on the MACD. And when that reversal arrow appears, it will take a trade. And then it will take another trade on every subsequent reversal arrow as long as all the subsequent previous trades are profitable. All right, I'm going to go back to my chart, and I want to finish describing the requirements for running this robot and then show you where you can find it in your members area. You need a Japanese yen or volatile currency pair, as we've discussed. You need some manner of identifying a trend. My favorite way to identify a trend is to look for quintuple RSI, the RSI 5, which is 5 time frames overbought simultaneously, and then a Knoxville divergence. Once I see that combination of settings, I like to turn the robot on and start trading. So this is a robot assistant. It's not meant to be turned on and left alone on your account. You can eventually, because you'll have the code, you can eventually have the robot determine when a trend exists and then turn itself on. That's beyond the scope of this webinar, and it's beyond the scope of what I even want to accomplish with this robot. I have a variety of other methods for determining a trend, and those are outside the scope of this webinar as well. Once again, we're all adults here, and you are able to figure out any method that you like for determining the existence of a trend. You could use daily trendline breaks, or daily Knoxville divergence, or Knoxville divergence when some other conditions are set, or some kind of reversal situation that you look at. Whatever it is, once you decide that a new trend is coming or that it exists, you go into your account and you turn on the robot, and then you're good to go. And then you need a stop loss that's smaller than your profit target, and you turn it on. Now let's take a look at where this robot exists in your members area.
Well, this will be good because I'm not sure where it's at either.
All right, so in your Rob Booker Trading Robots course, there's a Getting Started section. There's the Finch robot, which is the primary robot, and everyone should start there because it includes a lot of instructions about drawdown and warnings and settings and all kinds of great stuff. After that section comes a brand new section called the T6 Trend Robot. Makes it really easy to find, and it shows the T6 robot with reversal arrows. Today's webinar will be published as a recording, not only on YouTube, but we will put it as an additional lesson inside this T6 Trend Robot. And Wes, you can say, we could call this post or lesson, what are the best settings?
Awesome.
And there you go. There we go. Now sometimes we'll get some questions in this webinar that I'll want to answer off the recording because I don't want to put them on the recording and have the webinar last forever. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the recording and say thank you for watching. For those of you that are watching the recording, jump in there in your robot class. If you don't have the robots, we'll put a link either above or below or somewhere in this post, wherever you're watching it, below in the description section on YouTube or above in Facebook, where you can grab the robots. And we'll see you on Monday, because it's Thursday. We'll see you on Monday for our next webinar. Thanks for being here, everybody. And thank you, Wes, for all the work you did on this.
Oh, I love doing this work.